Hello, and welcome to Don't Fall for It Security Awareness Training. We are your presenters. May I please present Mike Hamilton. Mike Hamilton is the field CISO for Lumifi and the former co-founder and CISO of Critical Insight. He is also the former CISO for the city of Seattle. Mike is frequently quoted in major media and is an in-demand speaker and educator. Make sure to sign up for his daily news blast to stay up to date with the most pressing security issues affecting businesses and individuals. And my name is Virginia Case. I'm your event host and a marketing maven. Let's get things kicked off. Please keep in mind a few things. You're going to be doing something good for the world by educating yourself and others about the risks of today's digital landscape. You can get credit for being here. If you would like a certificate, please drop me an email. I'll put my email address inside of the chat. And we are going to be sending out a survey afterwards. Please fill it out and let us know how we did. And with that, off to you, Mike.
Okay. Hi, everybody, and thanks for coming. As Virginia mentioned, we are now part of Lumifi Cyber. Lumifi Cyber has been in business since 2009 and is based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. They're a company that looked very much like our own, and the merger has been exciting, to say the least. What Lumifi Cyber does is managed detection and response based on a triad of monitoring, endpoint detection and response, network detection and response, and SIM products, all feeding up to a platform that does orchestration with a large room full of analysts. Okay, that was the commercial part. Let's get to work. All right, why are you here? All right, you may be here because you are in a company or an organization that has all kinds of interesting data, information, records, whatever, that somebody would want to steal, and you don't want to lose that stuff. You may be in the public sector, and if you are, you do things like make my toilet flush, make my water drinkable, make sure the cops get to my house before I'm dead. We want all that to continue. IT holds all that up. We don't want that to get knocked down. Thank you for being here. You might be here because, as Virginia said, this is an annual requirement, and someone said you had to be here, or maybe you're just bored. We don't care. Thanks for being here. What do we want you to take away from this? The internet is not a nice place. The internet, as you interact with it, is here to sell to you, steal from you, and manipulate your opinion. And lately, it's gotten very good at doing that last one. Now, there's a few ways that are very common that networks are compromised coming in through users. And we're going to explain those, and we're going to show you what the bait looks like so that you're prepared to fend it off. And it's important to realize that today, it's not just a shotgun blast out over the internet hoping to fool somebody. There's all kinds of research that goes into these attacks. They're going to go on LinkedIn. They're going to find out who reports to who can move money, who can authorize the movement of money. So buckle up, because they're coming for you, and we want you to be very resistant. Now, cyber. Okay, cyber is a dumb word. Okay, this is information security. Cyber is the cartoon word invented so that we could take a whole bunch of very complex things and put it into one word. All right. Unwrap your head from that, because there are 5 business outcomes we're really trying to avoid here. Unauthorized disclosure of protected records, theft through business email compromise, we'll explain that. Extortion through the use of ransomware, denial of service, we'll explain that. You could be that third party that's used to attack your business associates. And lately, you're just getting knocked down for the sake of getting knocked down. Given the geopolitical context that we're living in today, that's happening more and more frequently. So, we're not here to talk about scary Russian cyber, buffer overflow, SQL injection. We want to talk about business outcomes that we're trying to avoid. These are the things to keep in mind. All right, a little bit of vocabulary, because, yeah, we have a lot of secret handshake language, and unfortunately, there's some of this we're going to have to deal with. So, ransomware. It's one form of extortion. They're going to hold your network hostage until you pay them. They're probably also going to steal records first, so that if you decide you're not going to pay to get your network back, they're going to make the records public and cause a class action suit. Okay, this is extortion is what this is. But the ransomware part of this starts like everything else starts. A little piece of unwanted software is going to get on a computer. Those little pieces of unwanted software, right? We call them viruses and Trojans and all this stuff, right? They still have a lot of functionality. Ransomware is particularly insidious. When it lands on your network, it starts looking around to find Where are the backups? Where are the critical servers? Where are the records? And it's going to be interactive access for somebody on the other side of the world. They're going to come and go in your network at will until they find all these things. They're going to take the records away, and they're going to lay in encryption software all over the network. And it comes down to one button push, and everything on the network is encrypted. Everything stops working. Okay, this is very, very frequent, and it's a big problem. So it happens a lot in healthcare. It happens a lot in local government. It happens a lot in manufacturing, but it also happens to everybody. Okay, we don't want ransomware to happen. When we talk about keeping that little piece of software out of your network, remember, this could be one of the things that follows the introduction of that software. Okay, business email compromise. Actually, financially, a bigger problem than ransomware. How does this work? Well, I might just send you an invoice to your accounts payable, and they might pay it. Okay, that's the easy way. There is a threshold under which sometimes accounts payable departments will just pay something without questioning. Kind of mid-range, you'll get email from the CEO asking you to buy gift cards. I'm at a conference. I'd like to give gift cards away to our customers. Or an emergency wire transfer. We've seen that too. On the high end, here's how it works. You'll get a piece of email that comes in that looks like it's from an employee or a business associate. And they're going to say, I just changed banks. Here's my new bank account. Please deposit my paychecks or your payment to us to this new bank. And if that works, if they fool the accounts payable people to reroute the funds, money's just going to go to the wrong place. Now, as an example, I'll tell you that the city of Seattle supports a lot of nonprofits in the area, and one of those is Mary's Place. Mary's Place is a homeless shelter for women and children. Mary's Place had their email system compromised. Somebody was in their email system. Looked around, found out who talked to the people at the city of Seattle, and then sent email as Mary's Place to the city of Seattle and said, we just changed our bank account. Here's the new account. Further support payments, please make them go to this account. And they didn't find out till $800,000 later. And that's not even that's not close to the largest impact that we've seen. So, business email compromise, cryptocurrency mining, a little piece of unwanted software gets on your network. This one takes over your computer and it goes to work trying to solve a cryptographic algorithm. And when it does, that solution is a coin. A coin is minted and the miner gets paid for that coin. Now, we talked about these business outcomes you want to avoid. One of those is theft. Well, yeah, there's theft of funds, business email compromise. There's theft of resources, CPU, power, for example. How do you know that this has happened to you? Your computer fan won't go off. It's very sluggish. It's not working properly. Got to tell somebody about that. And it's not just a computer as you think of a computer. Our SOC analysts have found cryptocurrency mining going on in VoIP phone systems. So it's anything with a CPU. Okay? We want to avoid this. Pig butchering. This is new. And pig butchering is actually a Chinese term, and this is the English translation of it. Here's how it works. Somebody out of the blue is going to reach out to you. And frankly, it can be a text message because I just got one of these last week. Somebody said, hey, Angela, it's me. And I write back and I say, I think you have a wrong number. Oh, okay. Well, who are you? You sound like a gentleman. And they start to create, some kind of relationship there, some kind of conversation going back and forth. And then today, they will even try to engage you in video calls with deep faked video. And it's usually a young woman, and they're going to interest you in an investment. And it's a cryptocurrency investment. And you're going to invest a little bit of money if they can convince you to do this. And then they're going to give you access to a portal that shows your money gaining in value, but you can't withdraw anything. And they will continue to say, well, you're going to need to invest a little bit more. Here's this big thing coming up. You got to get in on this. And they'll get you to invest some large sum of money, and then they disappear. That's pig butchering. So you got to watch out. So you probably want to, this is from my LinkedIn. You probably want to deal with it the way I dealt with it. Okay. All right. That was a little bit of vocabulary because we're going to need to do that. I'm going to be talking about these things. All right. Now, there are 3 ways that are the most prevalent methods for what we call initial access, all right, getting access to your network. Number one, credential abuse. Credentials, passwords, okay? So on the low end, I can guess your password, or I can use a dictionary attack, or I can use one of the password guessing kits. There's one called John the Ripper that's been around forever, still works great, okay? But hey, let's face it, folks, there are about 100 passwords that are so frequently used that it's really easy just to cycle through that top 100 and you're probably going to get a hit. Somebody in your company is going to be using passwords like this unless you have very good password controls. If any of these passwords are yours, you're doing it wrong, okay? Using passwords in more than one places, right? So you're using a password at work, but it happens to be the same one you use on some social media site, a Mastodon site or something like that, and it gets compromised. They grab the passwords, they take your password and try it on different accounts, Amazon, PayPal, etc., or your work account. And if you shared passwords, if you use passwords in more than one place, this is what happens. Don't let this happen to you. All right, kind of in the mid-range, there's credential stuffing, and I'll talk about that in a second, causing multi-factor authentication fatigue. I'll also talk about that in a second. Then there's this thing called info stealers. So info stealers largely happen when you hit a website that's been rigged, okay? When I say it's been rigged, it's usually a case of something called SQL injection, okay? So when you interact with a web application, you do it through form fields. You type stuff in there. If that application is not mature and using something called server-side input validation, you can put structured query language commands, how you talk directly to a database, into that field and send it off to the database and either make it barf out its entire contents or worse, inject something into it so that the next person that comes by gets a little present on the side, right? That present on the side can be a lot of things. Some of these now very frequently showing up are called info stealers. And what does it do? It takes your browser, if your browser is unpatched, and pulls all the saved passwords out of it, right? Just like that. So if you're storing all of your credentials in a browser and you don't update your browser regularly, you're going to trip over one of these sites and you're going to have all your passwords poached, and then it's game over. All right. So if you are using Chrome right now, and in the upper right it says update, you got to do that. And you really need to do that frequently with Chrome. It goes bad all the time. Credential stuffing. Okay, this one is good. This is if you have, let's say you have the billion passwords that were stolen from Yahoo when Yahoo was going through an acquisition, which did not help their valuation. And I use all of those passwords against your account. I'm going to get a hit. I am going to get a hit. Okay. And one way that they do this, it can be low and slow. So rather than using a billion passwords against you, I can use a billion passwords against everyone in your company. Password number 1, try it with every account. Didn't work. Password number 2, try it with every account. Didn't work. By the time you get to password 712, you're going to get a hit. Okay. And the thing about that is nobody gets 3 login failures in 5 minutes and gets locked out of the network. Okay? It's a low and slow tactic. Now, this is not done by somebody behind a keyboard doing this. This is done by bots. And generally, they're all over the world. Okay? This is a highly automated thing. Here's an example. This is me. This is me having passwords guessed every 20 seconds for 2 days. And if you look and see where these are coming from, Moscow, Taiwan, China, India, okay, they were all over the place. So this is a network of computers all over the world that have been compromised, that are under a single command structure doing all this password guessing. Okay, it's a very coordinated thing and it's all automated. Right? If you want to find out if this is happening to you and you have an authenticator app on your phone, you can go look for recent activity. And if you see stuff like this going on, you're under attack. This is why we use multi-factor authentication and things like conditional access policies that say, well, you're never allowed to log in from outside the United States. And we have both of those things in place here. So none of these would ever have worked, but provides interesting examples. On the high end, a SIM swap. Okay, here's what a SIM swap is. So I can collect enough information about you to impersonate you. And this is not hard. There are data brokers out there who will sell information, all kinds of information on you, and they're easy to find. So I call up your telecom provider. Maybe that's T-Mobile, maybe that's Cricket, who knows, and impersonate you and say, okay, look, here's what happened. I was on a ferry crossing Puget Sound and was taking a picture of Mount Rainier, and an orca jumped up and ate my phone. So this is my new phone. So please connect my old phone number to this phone. And if I can convince them to do that, I am holding your phone. And I can do everything you can do with your phone, including go to your Gmail account. Forgot password. Oh, send me the code that just came on your phone. You're in. Okay. That's how that works. And this is usually done to access cryptocurrency wallets using phones. So millions and millions and millions of dollars have been stolen this way. So what's the take-home message here? If your phone stops working for an unknown reason, get a hold of your telecom provider and ask the following questions. Have any changes been recently made to my account? If the answer is yes, unplug, right? Stop. Tell them to terminate that account right now. Okay, the multi-factor authentication bypass, right? We're still talking about credential abuse and all the things that can go wrong with passwords. MFA fatigue, multi-factor authentication fatigue, right? So I think everybody is familiar enough now with, the second factor that comes over a phone, whether that's in an authenticator app or it's a text message or whatever, your phone is your token, right? So multi-factor authentication is a combination of two or more of the following. Something you know, like a password, something you have, like a phone or a hardware token. Last one is something you are, your iris print, your palm print, things like that. Okay? So being that most people use second factor and get it on a phone, I can just keep trying your account, keep trying that multi-factor challenge. You're getting it, and finally you just make it stop. And as soon as you do that, you've let someone in, right? Now, the high-end way that this is done is called session token stripping. So let's say that you get, and we're going to get to phishing messages. This is a little cart before the horse, but let's say you get a phishing message and it comes from Microsoft, says you're out of space. Okay, Microsoft will never tell you that, but there's a link there to Microsoft. And you click the link because you want to find out. You're going to log into the Microsoft Resource Center. What happens is you've activated a script, and that script pulls the session token off of your communication and going through a proxy computer. That proxy computer then presents that to Microsoft. So it's not coming from you, it's coming from this actor in the middle. Presents it to Microsoft. Microsoft says, great session you got there. I've never seen your device before, so here's the challenge for the second factor. Route it back to the user. User thinks they're logging into Microsoft. Everything is fine. Microsoft wants to know it's really me. Okay, we authorize that. And all of a sudden, the user really is logged into Microsoft, to the Resource Center. But now the actor in the middle has access to Teams, SharePoint, Office 365, and all the single sign-on applications that you have. And it took less than 10 seconds for that to happen, right? The user just thinks they logged into Microsoft. Okay? So what's the message here? These phishing messages, when you get them, you may consider yourself to be fairly educated. Say, oh, I'm not going to put my password in there, but I want to see how dumb their fake SharePoint site is. And you hit that link. It's just hitting the link that activates all of these things. When you give up multi-factor authentication and let somebody in this way, they are intent on doing damage. This is not playtime for them. They're doing this to make money. Okay? So be very aware that you may get multiple challenges for the second factor, and you need to ignore them and you need to report them, and don't hit links just because you want to investigate a phishing site that you think might look dumb. How do we avoid credential abuse? Okay, so first of all, there is new guidance out from the National Institute of Standards and Technology regarding password management. So in the olden days, way back in the 20th century, it was upper and lower characters, and it had to be, at least 8 long, and special characters and things like that. And we're going to change it every 60 days. That's all out. And that never was a good way to do it. So, and you're not going to be able to modify, for the most part, your company's policy on this, but here is today's guidance. Use a passphrase, first line of a book, okay? Something that is very easy for you to remember, but is very long, because it's the fact that it's long that makes it very hard to crack, right? We can't just go to town and use every word in the dictionary and think we're going to get a hit there, because it's got spaces and it's maybe punctuated even. And so I'll give you an example. So when I worked for the city of Seattle, we instituted some encryption software, and the master decryption key for the city of Seattle, and it's not this way anymore, so don't try this, was this: the galley is always at the Seattle end of the boat. That was the passphrase for the master decryption key for everything in the city. Now, if you've ever been here and you've ever been in a ferry, you know that the galley is always at the Seattle end of the boat. All right. So using a password vault is a very good idea. We use Keeper. If you store your credentials in a password vault, the only password you ever need to remember is the one to open the vault. The password vaults like this will even choose passwords for you that are just, you could never remember it. And this is a very good way to do it. Combine that with a prohibition on storing credentials in your browsers because of these info stealers that'll suck everything out of there just like that. Don't do that. And then go check all your email addresses on this service, haveibeenpwned.com. This is very good. It's going to tell you if your passwords, your credentials have showed up in any of these big data dumps like the Yahoo billion passwords, except now there's a whole lot more of them out there. So this is a very good thing to, good service to use. Really the guidance around passwords, take this to heart. A sentence is better than some gobbledygook. Okay, that was all about credential abuse, all the things that can go wrong. They can guess passwords. They can find your password. You shared it somewhere else. They're going to log in. They can exhaust you for multi-factor authentication challenges. Next one, vulnerability exploit. This one is getting more and more important. Here's why. First, let's talk about what a vulnerability is. Example, long time ago, a program called SendMail. It was the original Unix-based mail transport agent. It's not what you type your email into. It's when you hit send. It's the computer on your network where it goes that figures out what's the destination that I need to send it to. Okay, that's a mail transport agent, MTA. It's mail server. So SendMail is running, and Eric Allman is writing this program as a graduate student. He says, you know, I need a variable for the sender address. Sender address is never going to be more than 255 characters, so I'm going to give it a 255 byte buffer, and he did not bound it. He did not make it impossible to go over that limit. And so when a piece of email comes in and the sender address is 256 characters or 751 or 1402, it overflows the buffer. And if you do that just right, get that offset just right, you can put your choice of executable code into the running stack of the machine, and you now own the machine. That's called a buffer overflow exploit. Happens all the time. This is one of the original seminal papers on how all this stuff works. Google it, Smashing the Stack for Fun and Profit. It's a fascinating read. Came out a long time ago in a publication called Frack. All right, what else is a vulnerability? Okay, well, let's talk about the recent compromise of some water sectors, some water utilities. The headline was they were using Israeli-made programmable logic controllers, and they were all compromised by Iranians. Okay, this was not a sophisticated thing. The reason that those Israeli PLCs were compromised by Iranians is because when the operators put them in place, they did not change the default passwords. And these programmable logic controllers are all running little web servers with a management interface there. So all the Iranians did was went online, looked up the default passwords, scanned the internet, found these guys, and just walked into the network. All right. They left a vulnerability there by not managing the change of the credentials from default. Okay. Can also be something in human behavior. You know, if you don't train your users, for example, you are vulnerable. we really need to be reinforcing these things and showing you a lot of examples, as we will do, of the bait, because typically, there's a taxonomy of things that they're going to use against you, and you need to see them. If you fail to train your users like that, and I don't mean these dippy cartoon things that are canned, I mean somebody really needs to sit down and talk to you and show you what this stuff is like. If you don't do that, you are vulnerable. Okay, now let's talk about this vulnerability exploit thing. So here are a few recent examples. Ransomware attackers exploit your old backup vulnerability. Okay, how do we address a vulnerability? We get a patch, right, from the vendor, an update, right? Your phone will ask you to update. If you have something that is widely used and it faces the internet and a vulnerability is announced and a patch is released, you got to get after it right away, because the scanner is going to find you. Okay, it's a race. When, for example, a Cisco firewall has a vulnerability, as soon as that patch is made public, bad guys, and I'm not just talking criminals, I'm talking countries too. Nation states are very, very in this game. They're going to take that patch, reverse engineer it to find out what it fixes. That way they can build the exploit that will break that thing. Simultaneously and nearly immediately, they start scanning the internet to find vulnerable exposures of that product. Right? This is all automated today. So what's the take home here? If you have a piece of technology facing the internet and they release a patch for this, it's a race. You need to treat this like it's an incident, and this is now your highest priority. Drop what you were doing, get that patch in place, or some compensating controls, like unplugging it from the internet, for example, or extra monitoring, something like that, because the scanner is going to find you, right? This automation is no joke. And you may say, well, we're in an organization that's so small, we have nothing to steal, nobody would come after us, and the scanner does not care. They're going to find you. This is happening with greater and greater frequency. And there have been some very, very big examples of this during the last year. The MoveIt file transfer program went bad. All these companies that were using that for file transfer all got hacked. And there were hundreds of them. So again, when that patch comes out and it's on something that faces the internet, it's a race. How do we avoid this? Okay, it's the patching. You got to keep on top of what the vendor is telling you. Need to pay attention to the CISA. It's called the KEV catalog, the known exploited vulnerabilities, because they're going to tell you the ones they're actually getting whacked out there in exploit land. There's a way to create a vulnerability management policy that will take into consideration things like, does this face the internet? Is there a public exploit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to help you prioritize what to do in what order. For home users, right, Microsoft patches itself, I mean, for the most part, but you have to reboot to activate the patches. So if you look in the bottom right of your tray right now on a Microsoft computer, it's got a little orange dot. Bad on you. You should have rebooted your computer by now, because those patches have been on there for 2 weeks. So it's important to restart your device after the application of patches so that they can be activated. Your iPhone will just get nasty with you. Hey, I've had the patches here. I've asked you to restart, so go ahead and go to bed, because when you wake up, you got a new phone. All right. Linux and Android, which are essentially the same operating system, you need to review the admin settings to make sure it's as automated as possible. And again, once the patches come down, you have to restart. Otherwise, you're still vulnerable. Okay, that was vulnerability exploit. So we've talked about credential use, vulnerability exploit, social engineering. Okay, this is the one where there is no firewall for gullibility. I'm sorry. All we can tell you to do is be aware of these things and be smart, because this is a very prevalent tactic. Phishing, obviously. Okay, there are things about us that help the bad guy. For example, hyperbolic discounting. Hey, free trial, limited time offer, only 5 left, right? They're using this sense of urgency there, the curiosity effect, something in the news. Something that worked really well back when I was at the city of Seattle was, and recent news will be used a lot. So something comes out of the blue is Saddam Hussein found alive. Everybody clicked. Everybody clicked. Today it can be too, it looks like it comes from somebody of authority in your organization. For example, HR. Here's our new office occupancy policy. Authority bias. Right? It's come from the CEO asking you for gift cards, and you're less likely to look up at the sender address and go, "Oh, that's not the CEO." Right? These are things about us that you should keep in mind that they are leveraging to make them successful. Okay, phishing. All right, now there's a lot of, and I mean thousands and thousands of lookalike websites out there that look like they're, Amazon, DocuSign, Microsoft, right, Adobe, etc. And you'll get a piece of bait, and when you try to see what they're trying to draw you into, it's going to ask you for credentials, password. Okay, might give you a file to download, something like that. These are so easy to put together now. There are, again, thousands and thousands of these fake sites. And as we go into holiday season, you're going to get beat over the head with all kinds of fake bait drawing you to these fake sites that really want to gather your credit card information and your login information. So got to be very, very careful. Microsoft, obviously the top fished brand, but you see the order, the sorting order there. What's fascinating is that you don't hit a bank until you get down around number 9, Wells Fargo. So again, they're really looking for your credentials and or credit cards. Right? These are sites that sell things. Smishing, okay, again with the dumb words. So SMS, short message service, is text message. That's what that is. So this is phishing over SMS. This stuff comes in out of the blue. Why is some rando out there sending this to me? And if you don't ask yourselves those questions and you believe what you get when it came from an unexpected source and the message wasn't expected and it's got some offer in there that's just too good to be true, or it's trying to pull another one of those cognitive strings, right? Hey, we're trying to deliver this thing to you, but it's not working out. We need you to hit this link and blah, blah, blah. The statistic is that with all of the fake USPS sites out there, they get nearly as much traffic as the real USPS site. And in holiday season, the fake ones get more. Right? So this is a tactic that works. Whether or not it comes over email, through social media, over text message like this, be aware that during holiday season, there's going to be offers to go to sites, retail sites with just unbelievable discounting. And there's going to be, hey, we can't deliver your package. Okay. This one, look at the instructions, they're strange. Look at the link it wants you to go to, us.ps.irt-address.com. It's not the US Postal Service. So really, when something's trying to get your attention and get you to do something like hit a link, make sure you look at all the information in front of you, including the veracity of the links. Phishing, voicemail phishing. Okay, this is happening more and more. It takes, on some services, no more than 3 seconds of your voice to be able to clone your voice. Okay, so when someone's calling up and you didn't expect the call and they're trying to get you to do something that involves probably a financial act, okay, and even if you recognize the voice, today you need to verify that as independently as you can. It could be somebody calling from one of your business associates saying, we've changed our bank account, here's the new routing number, and it sounds like them. They can even use, video to go with that. So really verifying the identity of the caller as well as you can. Say, listen, I'll call you back. Don't call them back on the number they called you. Call them back on the number you have on file for that real vendor or that real business associate or whoever that was. Okay. One of the classics is the grandchild in trouble. Hey, grandpa, I was on spring break in Spain and I got thrown into jail and I need you to bail me out and wire some money over to Spain. Okay. And if that's coupled with a voice that sounds right, and maybe even a video that looks right, they're going to do it. I mean, look at that headline there. Mom, these bad men have me. Scammers cloned her daughter's voice, faked the kidnapping to get her to send money. So again, the internet and all the associated communication media sells to you, steals from you, and manipulates your opinion. Can't trust anything. I'm sorry to tell you that. Here's our deepfake Putin right here, telling us how we're all going to be nuked. These are so easy to make now. There was an article I read that said deepfakes have ushered in the era of deep trust. You can look at anything you don't like now and say, oh, that's a deep fake. I'm not going to believe it. Okay, well, that's us, right? But deep fakes are pervasive and they are out there. So here's $25 million lost from this engineering firm. This was in Hong Kong. And the CFO actually had a video call with employees and said, I want you to start wiring away $1 million per week to this address because this is a big contract and we're involved with a business partner and blah, blah, blah. And they didn't find out that $25 million had left, right? This isn't even the biggest one. There was one with $60 million. So again, don't believe things that come out of the blue. Even if it's from someone that looks like you trust. You got to verify if somebody's asking you to do something financial. Okay. All right. So those are the three prevalent methods: social engineering, credential abuse, vulnerability exploit. Take those to heart, because if you were going to focus on three things to keep your organization safe, those are the three things. And I know there's all kinds of regulatory requirements and standards of practice, right? But if you focus on the things that are ones that are most prevalently used, you are optimizing your investment in security. Let's look at some bait. Okay, here's email that came to me from Garrett Silver, who is our CEO, whose email address is not chief_exec.officer1@aol.com. And I know that because I personally know the only two remaining AOL users. And look what it says. I'm arranging some gifts for the staffs. Okay, that's a grammatical construct. It's not usually used in the United States, but set that aside. I suggest an Amazon gift card coupled with a personal note. Remember the tactic. Remember that crazy guy on Security Awareness Training who said CEOs asking for gift cards is a warning sign, right? Eyes up. Return address doesn't look right. Okay. Remember, we have that cognitive bias, that authority bias. Came from Garrett Silver. All I see is his name. I'm going to do what I'm asked. Nope. Check it out. Microsoft will never tell you these things. They're not going to tell you you're out of space. They're not going to tell you your mailbox is full. They're not going to tell you there's undeliverable email, nothing. Okay. They talk to admins that way if there's something going wrong with your Microsoft networking products. And every time you get one of these, eyes up to that sender address, and you will see that these have nothing to do with Microsoft. They're easy to ferret out. What happens if you're going to click on any of these? And some of these come in as a clickable image. Anywhere you click on it, it's going to take you somewhere. Every one of these is trying to get your Microsoft password. Don't click. QR code is a URL. You just can't tell where the damn thing's going to take you, right? And more of these. In fact, recent report is 60% of QR codes that come in as spam are booby-trapped, right? Be aware. Don't just go scan things with your phone. In fact, a buddy of mine works at, is a volunteer for the Black Hat Conference, which is, big hacker conference, I guess you would call it. And with the QR codes that they had there at the hotel that were legitimate, put red dots, little red dots on all of them. So if anybody walked by and saw a QR code without a red dot, they knew it was fake, and they found them all over the place. Now, if you go to Black Hat, you're inviting that kind of activity, but just saying, find these things out on the street. It's best not to just investigate. Well, what is this thing? And shoot it with your camera. Don't click. All of these brands are being impersonated, right? This is called the halo effect, that cognitive bias, the halo effect, right? Looks like it comes from DocuSign. Hey, we work with DocuSign all the time. Or it looks like it's, a voicemail attachment or something like that. These are coming all of the time. They're all trying to get your credentials, right? Credential abuse, one of the #1 ways for initial access. Don't give up your credentials. And some of these lately, so, and this is especially true for box.com, for example. So if somebody gets access to your email password and they're in your email system, that means they are authenticated to your network. Right? And lots of networks have single sign-on relationships with organizations like box.com. So you can go log into Box without giving another password. You're just in. And if you do that, you put a booby trap in there, a piece of malware, something like that, and then you send links to everybody in the contact list and say, here's a file I want you to pick up. And it looks like it's coming from box.com because it is. So the key thing to remember is if something is not expected, you really need to be suspicious. Okay, all right. No, you're not going to get a free tool cabinet for your opinion. No, it doesn't work that way. T-Mobile is not going to give you something just because they want you to answer a questionnaire, right? Cognitive bias, right? Free offers, all that, using urgency here, right? Limited supply and 9 rewards remaining. Be careful of these things, but take this to heart. You don't get free stuff from these companies for filling out a survey. You don't. Okay, CVS Pharmacy will pay me, whoa, look at this, $350 to $450 for 20 to 30 minutes of work. Hook me up. No. URL is a shortened URL. You have no idea where it goes. Something bad will happen when you click. It came out of the blue. You didn't expect it. You don't know the sender, and the offer is too good to be true. Okay? Don't get fooled by something like this. When the economy is very bad, there's really a lot of this out there because people are very, very willing to believe something like this. Hey, here's, my salvation. No. Action required. Okay, so I show a lot of examples that came to me. I have my OG email address that I've had since about 2000. And so here's Network Solutions, who is the network registrar for my domain, saying, hey, it's quick notice to let you know that your mailbox services are about to expire. Well, I know that's not true, right? So, I'm not going to fall for that, but take that to the next step. Go grab the URL, right? You can right click, copy that link, and take it to virustotal.com and plug it in there, and it will tell you exactly what they know about this. So 3 out of 96 security vendors flagged this URL as malicious, and they're not all going to find it. But VirusTotal will tell you a file, a link, something like that. It'll run a whole bunch of analysis tools over it and tell you what it knows about it. So yeah, I mean, you can figure out that the link is not what you want. You can delete it, but you want to take it that extra step and find out how bad it is, run it through VirusTotal. And there's other services too. I just like that one. So LinkedIn, oh boy, here's a recent campaign for fake job offers, LinkedIn. And remember, social media is one of the primary ways they're putting bait in front of people. So this is about, hey, you look like a fit for this Goldman Sachs job, right? The entire image is a link. Okay? Anywhere you click on that link or on that image, it's taking you away to that URL. All right, so here's the URL, and it's going to a dental office, not an app store. Right? This campaign was going on LinkedIn, but we've seen it in other social media. And actually, some of the people behind this are North Koreans. So be very careful because they are after your cryptocurrency if you are a cryptocurrency person. So we ran that URL through VirusTotal. Yeah, it's a pile of badness. Yep. Okay, miscellaneous threats, some of my favorite stuff. Okay, this is better known as the legendary Nigerian prince. Okay, it's called an advance fee scam. How does it work? You are offered something of value, and they're trying to engage you, right? They want you to talk back. They want you to email back to them. And when they do, they're going to tell you, okay, well, I have this, for example, gift card. It's got, $150,000 on it, and you just have to pay the $135 processing fee. Okay, they've offered you something about out of the blue. You didn't expect any of this, all right? Now, look at the message here. And they will frequently now attach these artifacts to give them this patina of believability. Okay, here's my postal service ID, right? The postal service doesn't do this. All right, now look at the message. Do you see where it says to undisclosed recipients? Okay, what that means is you got this along with 10,000 of your best friends. Right? That's called a BCC, a blind carbon. Okay, and attention recipient. Oh, so we have this for you. Wishes to establish contact with the owner of this email address. An ATM card package deposited this office. Oh man, there's an ATM card with money on it for me. Don't you think they would know your name? Attention recipient. We have this thing for you, and we found your email address, but we don't know your name. You have to tell us your name. This is so ridiculous, and people fall for that. There's a lot of variations of this. I'm a soldier in Syria with a barrel of money. I'm trying to get out of the country. I am a woman dying of cancer, and I would like to give my fortune away, and I need someone to help me do that. I'm working to move a pallet of gold from Thailand to China, and I need your logistical expertise. It's got all these flavors, but the way it works is something of value is offered. You have to engage with them, and then they start to ask you for money. I need to pay this bribe. I need to fly across country. I need to file this paperwork. And there's a filing fee. Things just goes on and on and on and on, and they will never stop. People get pulled into this for years. I have seen people get pulled into this for years. Why for years? Because nobody wants to admit to themselves, I've been a dumbass all this time and given away all this money, right? I mean, cognitively, psychologically, we just don't want to make that admission. Okay, social media scams. Now, I am not a musician. I am a drummer. I hang around with musicians. But if you're a musician, you know this guy, Rick Beato. He's got great YouTube channel, What Makes This Song Great, 20 greatest guitar intros, things like that. This goes for all types of influencers, right? Social media, YouTube, places like that. Somebody will comment on a video or a post or something like that. And then the owner of that channel will then come back to your comment and say, hey, I've identified you as the random winner of a prize. Let's go over to this other channel and talk about it. Okay, this is starting to show up more commonly. You can't believe this. It's not really Rick. Okay, and what they're going to do is they're probably going to, give you some kind of, hey, I'm going to give you a autographed guitar autographed by Jimmy Page. All you got to do is pay the shipping fee. Well, you pay them the shipping fee, and so you've given away your credit card number, and probably going to get a lot of bad charges on the card. So be aware of this, right? Social media comment scams. The computer support scam pops up in the middle of what you're doing. Says, hey, you're full of viruses here. We've threat detected. Call this number. Well, if you call that number, they are going to tell you to connect to a website. They will also connect to that website. The website joins the two connections so that that person on the other end can act just like a help desk does, move the cursor around. What they're going to do, they're going to install a bunch of fake tools, and they're going to run this thing, and it's go, oh, virus. And this is particularly effective against like parents and grandparents, right? Because they believe things that they are being told by the internet. And so what happens is they're going to say, oh, it looks like your support contract has lapsed. Would you like to buy another one? And then you're just going to give them a credit card number, and they're just going to trot off with a credit card number. All right, if this happens because the site you're on has been injected, okay, just close the tab. It'll go away. There's another variation recently where the notice rises from your tray like a real Microsoft message. It'll say, hey, McAfee found stuff. Click here. Okay, if that is happening and it happens over and over and over and over again, clear the cache of your browser and it will go away. Ooh, be my secret shopper. Now, there's lots of legit secret shopper stuff out there, but this is a scam. Here's how the scam works. They're going to send you a check. Here's the check. Okay, so obviously I've engaged with lots of criminals, but for the purpose of gathering examples. Here is $1,850, and they sent it, interestingly, to Seattle Municipal Tower. And there's mistakes on the check. You can see upper left, Portland, Oregon. Okay, center top, US Bank Corp, not US Bank Corp. All right, they send you this check. They say, okay, go deposit this in your bank. Your bank's going to say it's great, and then we want you to go to this restaurant and get a meal and write a report on how good the food was and the service and everything. Go to this gym, get a workout. Tell us about the availability of equipment, cleanliness, things like that. And then whatever is left over, keep $400 for yourself, and then wire the rest of the way to this Western Union address, and then write us a report on what you thought of Western Union. And about 10 days later, your bank's going to come back and they go, the routing number on that check was good, but the check is a forgery. And so we're withdrawing the $1,800 back out of your account. So I hope you enjoyed the workout and the meal because you just wired away your own money. And there are lots of variations of this scam as well. But when you're being offered a job for doing very little, it sounds like you're getting free money. It's probably a scam. Okay, so how do we avoid all of these things? First of all, don't follow every damn link you get in email. okay, or as a text message, even if it looks like it came from someone you know, and especially if it comes in with no context, right? Here's just a link. I just got a link, in fact, from somebody you know. They may have had their email account compromised, and they're just sending this out to everybody in their contact list. Michael, link, Kelly. Okay, that's dangerous, especially if it's a shortened link. You don't know where it goes. So there's booby trap websites all over the internet, and an unexpected message with a link with no explanation about what that link is, very dangerous. Fake apps. We didn't go through App Store stuff, but if you download apps out of an App Store, make sure that you know how long they've been in the App Store, how many downloads there have been, how is it rated, how many people have rated it, because a 5-star rating by 3 people is statistical fuzz, means nothing. Apps will track you. Data brokers buy your location and movement information. Anybody can buy that from a data broker. Some of these apps hit ad networks in the background, and you're going to pay for all of the data traffic. These are bad things. So, check out the apps. The bait. Okay, remember the examples of the bait and really the tactics that are being used, right? CEO plus gift cards equals bad. Okay, things that are asking you to do some kind of financial transaction always have to verify independently what you're being asked to do. No, don't start wiring away $1 million a week. Please don't do that. Patch your vulnerabilities. Okay, and if you're on the IT team, remember, the patch is released and it's something that you have facing the internet. It is now an incident. Drop what you're doing and get after it. For users, reboot your computers after you take on the patches. Make sure you update your browsers so that info stealers don't poach all the credentials that you've stored in there. This is the hot tip, really, for organizations of any size. Personal use, best conducted on a personal device. When I was at the city of Seattle, we took a lot of measurements, and I could prove that 40% of the compromised assets came from the use of personal email. So here's Outlook, and it's all cleaned up. No bad links, no attachments, right? Right next to it, web browser open, Bubba's email service with no controls at all. What good did it do to spend all that money cleaning up Outlook? None, right? So if Facebook lives here, Gmail lives here, and not on a work computer, 40% of the problem just went off a cliff. Don't circumvent security controls. When you hit the big red page, Microsoft says, we really don't want you to go any farther than this. The reason that comes up is because what's on the other side of that is a site that looks like SharePoint, and Microsoft knows it's not SharePoint. So don't be curious. Don't hit that phishing link just to see how dumb their website is. Okay? Don't reuse passwords. Enough said about that. It's much better to use a password vault and always use multi-factor authentication. We didn't talk about use of encryption, but full disk encryption should be in place at your place of business. Always use full disk encryption. That way you can lose your laptop. It's a tree falling in the forest. Nobody cares. If you find a USB stick lying around, don't plug it into a computer to find out what's on it. That's a booby trap. We have a rapidly growing domestic problem. Gen Z is going into cybercrime. We'll talk about that in a webinar at some point. But this is getting really bad. We have a domestic problem now. So it's not people on the other side of the world necessarily doing this. In fact, they just arrested 5 people from a gang called Scattered Spider. They were all teens and 20-somethings from the US and the UK. Okay, so this is a tactic they'll use. They'll go throw booby trap USB sticks in bathrooms and parking lots and just wait for you to pick them up. Don't do that, right? Multi-factor authentication, again, is your friend, right? Something you know, something you have, something you are. That's the definition. So here's a counterexample. Credit unions in the Midwest. You go to log into your credit union website. What's your username? What's your password? What's color of your first car? That's not multi-factor authentication. That's 2 things you know. Password and a shared secret of the color of your first car. None of that proves that you're holding a phone, right? You have to get that code, type it in, and go, okay, I know you're holding that phone, so it's something you have. More important than anything, if you see something, say something. My computer has slowed down. The fan won't turn off. I don't know why. I got the HR announcement on new office occupancy policy, and I went to go read it, and I logged into SharePoint, and there was nothing there. Right? You've got to report this stuff. So every organization should have a reporting mechanism for reporting a security event, and if not, you got to set one up. Okay, and with that, Virginia, back to you.
Thank you so much, Mike. As always, very informative. Thank you, everybody who's joined us today. We'd like you to stay connected with us. One of the ways that you can do that is by signing up for the daily IT Security News Blast email. So if you enjoy Mike's perspective, you can get some more of that inside of his daily news blast. Thank you so much for joining us. Mike, final thoughts?
Yep, stay off the internet.
To the point. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.